I kind of wish that I had owned a little bit more of my uniqueness, my story, and who I am, and embracing your uniqueness as your superpower.
Welcome to Identity Unveiled. IU is a platform that supports advancement of Asian American women to the executive ranks. We highlight amazing stories of Asian American women becoming the first in their industry or breaking barriers as executives and leaders. The key to personal and professional growth really lies embracing new opportunities with an open mind and a fearless attitude. For women, this means stepping out of your comfort zones or taking on new challenges or navigating career transitions with confidence and resilience. On average, people are staying in their jobs in shorter periods than previous generations. According to the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics, the median tenure for workers aged from 35 to 44 was about 4.5 or 5 years. And then from 45 to 54 was about 7.5 years. So this reflects a broader trend where there are more frequent career shifts.
So our guest today is Lisa Bull, which of recent news is the former vice president for the global partner marketing of both Paramount and Viacom, two of the leading media and entertainment companies in the country. Well, just this month, in May, Lisa left the entertainment industry to become partner and chief marketing officer at Yobo Spirit House. Lisa is also a board member of Asians in Advertising, among many other organizations as well that support women and emerging diverse executives such as She Runs It, Future Now Media, Chiefs, Asians in Advertising, Asians American Collective, and Generation.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Well, we have a lot to cover, especially with this breaking news. So let's just dive right in. You know, when we first met, you talked a lot about how your childhood really made an impact on how you felt is the lack of connection to your own community, or you didn't feel like you had that community. And that really was quite formative for you in your career.
Yeah, so I am adopted Korean American, and I grew up in a Caucasian household, in a primarily, diverse town, but a lot of less diversity when I was growing up. And so for me, kind of growing up and going through elementary school, middle school, high school, and eventually to college, I felt a little bit torn at my identity. I obviously present every day as a Korean American woman, but I lacked a little bit of the connection to my Korean culture and heritage. And then I also didn't really fully fit in within the white culture that I grew up in, the family that I grew up in. So it was a lot of, I feel like for my early, first 20, 25 years, really trying to figure out where I fit in. I think I did a lot of assimilation and trying to blend in a lot. And as I sort of, look back at that moment now, I kind of wish that I had owned a little bit more of like my uniqueness, my story, and who I am, because it certainly has set me up, I would say, for the past 15 plus years on a career path and journey of a lot of self-discovery.
I love hearing your story, Lisa. I am Korean American myself, but I grew up in Houston, Texas, where there were a lot of definitely cowboys in my school. And so even as a Korean American adoptee or even a Korean American born here, it's a lot of cultural identity issues, identifying yourself. How do you identify yourself? And a lot of that impacts what we're seeking in life, to education, to even like our college degrees or what you're doing today. Would you say that's cultural identity crisis kind of led to where you are today?
Yeah, I think so. I think so, Diane. It certainly, I thought I had to sort of, early on, I really tried to just blend in with, the environment I was in with my family. Although, now that I look back, I know I clearly wasn't visually blending in. I mean, and, so I think for me, it sort of did shape a little in the beginning where I thought I had to go and what I had to do. And certainly early on in my career, sort of that idea of, do great work, don't be too boastful. Some of those same adages that I hear from other fellow, Korean Americans and other members of the community still resonated with me. I felt, even though I'd grown up in this Caucasian household and family, I think what I understand now to be true is I was subjected to like outside pressures and perceptions of who I am and what I was expected to be. So a lot of the, the model minority myths of head down, be quiet, do great work, you'll be rewarded. I started to see that not really play out in my favor early on in my career. I kind of like scratched my head a few times. I was like, I don't really understand why I'm getting great performance reviews. I am delivering above and beyond. I'm getting client accolades and feedback. Campaigns are winning awards, but I'm not seeing the trajectory of my career move as fast as some of my other colleagues and counterparts.
Was the expectation, like the model minority expectation, something that happened as you entered, school and entered work? Or was it something that you felt that was just even within your own home, you felt you needed to be that?
That's a great question. I think I grew up in a household with academics. So both of my parents were PhDs, and academics was always sort of the top paramount for them. I think I might have scared them one time as a rebellious teenager when I said, and I'm not going to college. And they were just, what? So I don't know that the tenets of model minority really showed up too much that I was aware of when I was younger. But certainly the adage of trying your best, getting good grades, of course, I think each person is sort of individually puts their own pressure we put our own pressure on ourselves. But there was the long tail, which was four-year college. That was always sort of the path that was painted. I didn't really have any other paths that were shown to me other than that. So I think growing up, probably, like now that I look back, probably some of that, but certainly when I was going through school, I mean, it was always like, you must be great at math. And I like absolutely was horrible at math, so much so that I had to get a math tutor to finish out my high school. So some of those things just felt like sort of some of those moments from model minorities sort of rearing their head throughout high school and certainly college.
So walk us through how you came from college to now here, Vice President, a global partner for marketing. What was your journey to the top and how did you do that?
Sure. So I actually came up to New York to drop off all of my belongings. And I took a couple of interviews in New York City. Advertising, marketing was what I studied, communications. So I had this dream of working on Madison Avenue at a ad agency. I would say it was a linear path at first, and then it started to get a little winding. I went to work at MTV Networks, which is funny because I was there and then I left and then I came back. And I was on the ad sales side. So I really wanted to learn a little bit more about the business behind, the media that I was buying on behalf of clients. I wanted to sort of see how the networks ran. And I did that for about a year. So I decided to go into the consumer product space. I did that for a bit. And then I went to a smaller company because I'd always been at a very large company. And I sort of was like, I want to do more. And I know that larger companies have a lot of manpower and a lot of teams to support. So I challenged myself to go to a small company. And I remember the first day there, I said, oh, I need to get some research because I was doing brand strategy development. And, they handed me a book at the time with some printed data. And they also handed me a bunch of resources like sites and stuff. So I realized I was going to be my own researcher as well as developing marketing plans and strategies.
How did you end up, with Paramount, or Viacom, which then I think later became Paramount, right?
Yeah. The one thing I really loved about what I did at the smaller company was doing brand partnerships, talking with, the Spotify's and the Airbnbs of the world and those types of brands in terms of doing partnerships and being really strategic. So that led me to Paramount. It was a role within the sales organization, but on the marketing side. And so I had the opportunity to come in and work and partner around with some of the top IP in the world, from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to SpongeBob, and put our brand out there in a very strategic and thoughtful way with some really key partners. So I spent a lot of time within that team, but covering various different roles, different, the company itself had gone through a couple of reorgs. And I always, look to learn, to be additive, to grow my remit. I did a lot of new business work while I was there. So that was really interesting because it was like talking to new clients and then putting their brands with our intellectual property and telling new stories. So I just really enjoyed that from like a marketing perspective. And also it just got really interesting. The last few years I was there, we were doing a lot more original productions and looking at product integration, and then taking product integration into a film, and then doing a campaign off channel to sort of support and amplify that.
So how many years were you now at Paramount?
I was there for, it's funny because Diane, like opened with that stat of current, how long people are currently in their roles or with companies. I was there for 10 years, and I do realize that's sort of an anomaly now, right?
And we talked earlier about kind of really finding yourself. And I'm curious about what was the hardest part of this journey, going from to become this executive, this global partner in marketing at Paramount?
There was a moment where I had been passed up for a promotion. A bunch of people went for it, but my really close colleague got the role, and I was very happy for her. But it gave me a moment when I was there to say, like, kind of, well, why didn't I get it? And where did I fall short? And what are those skills that I need to know to sort of, for the next time around, put me in a better, position. And so I think for me, that was a real turning point in my career. That was a former boss of mine, actually a male ally of mine, that really, I think, sat down with me and told me some of the hard truths. I think I didn't command a room, or I didn't command the presence when I was in a room with a bunch of people. I was a little more, I would say, and for myself, I am more an introvert by nature. So for me, that was really hard because it felt like I was being kind of judged on just who I was as a person. And I was like, I don't know that that makes me any less of a qualified leader. It's just, I don't, I just have a different leadership type of style. So I think for me, I heard that, and I was like, that was like kind of a gut punch. But what it allowed me to do was, after I kind of went through everything and kind of went through the fields, I intentionally turned that around. I started observing other leaders that were, 2 or 3 levels above me, started looking at their styles. How could I incorporate maybe some of what they're doing into my leadership style to be a little bit more commanding. So I joined a couple of groups and led different task force for different events and tried some of those styles. And it felt a little safer to do that, I would say, with colleagues from around the company versus, people directly in my team or my sales counterparts. I think after kind of going through that self-awareness and self-reflection, I came into a place that was very much my own style, something that I felt comfortable with. And for me, that was really incredible, because I would say less than a year later, another round of opportunity came, and that's when I was elevated. I think for me, that was a moment I feel like a lot of us face, where we get that feedback or we don't get the promotion that we've been looking for. And we either, can lean in and sort of get some real feedback as to why, and then work on making those changes and adjustments, or we can kind of sit there and just like be mad and then just kind of continue on and say, like, I'm not going to change. But I felt that regardless of whether my next promotion or opportunity was going to be within Paramount or not, I needed to level up my, some skills in that area in order just to be sort of in the places that I wanted to be, in the rooms that I wanted to be, sitting in seats of, where I make decisions and I drive a lot of impact. I needed to adjust a little bit my style. I think that's sometimes really hard to hear. Not that, everyone's perfect, but I think when sometimes it's not just a skill set, like, we need you to be more organized, or we need certain things to be done this way.
Behavioral, right? It's these soft
Yeah.
skill behavioral things that
Yeah.
sometimes it can feel like that microaggression, right?
Yeah.
Like, is it because I'm, an Asian female or female,
Right.
I'm receiving this feedback, or is this truly something that I need to try out, change about myself, and test the waters with?
I still, I still have some anxiety when I go in and lead meetings, or when I'm meeting with new clients or any of those things, but it feels a little more comfortable to me and familiar than it did when I first started out. And that's kind of like when people ask, how do I make that change? Because I do feel like a lot of women, to your point, and then a lot of people from the AAPI community sort of feel like they maybe don't want to take up the space. It's a cultural thing where it's like, don't be too boisterous. We don't want to promote ourselves too much. I think what I learned, been like 6 years at this point, that you have to do it your own organic way, something that's true to you, that feels comfortable.
And you are recently part of a new, and I won't say the name, I want you to really take the thunder on that, this first luxury American craft soju. Tell us about that. Why would you change?
Yeah, I think so. I'm really excited to be partner and the CMO of Yobo Spirit House. It's actually very interesting because I connected with the current CEO maybe a year and a half ago. We had been colleagues in the past, and I saw that he was over working on this brand. So the CEO and I were colleagues. I saw that he was over at this new brand, and I just emailed him out of curiosity, like what is this? This is interesting. And I read that it was a Korean American soju brand that was founded by Carolyn Kim, I was a Korean American and wanted to kind of give homage to both of her cultures, right? Her Korean culture with soju is that the country's #1 spirit, and American culture. So
Lisa, but this was someone that you like randomly came across, that you randomly kind of knew, and then you just reached out to them on a whim of something you read and said, hey, this is really interesting.
yeah, I reached out I hadn't talked to the CEO in a little bit of time. So I reached out, kind of out of the blue. And yeah, I mean, we continued a conversation for upwards about a year. And I think for me, it was an opportunity to connect even more deeply with my Korean heritage as well as my American heritage in terms of the founder, the mission, not being, soju is the #1 beverage in the world, but it's really limited visibility here in the US. So I felt like for me, it was, as I was going on my journey, taking an opportunity to really amplify my culture, my heritage, where I was born, the community I came from. And so he and I kept talking for about a year, and I would just sort of say, let me know if there's anything I can do. I wanted to see the brand succeed. I wanted to try it. They were working out a lot of stuff with production and manufacturing at the time. And then I would say it was probably like towards, the end of last year where we just started talking in a real earnest way about marketing and kind of what the brand was looking to do 2024 and beyond. We kind of went back and forth, and I met everybody on the team, and I just really love the opportunity to contribute to a Korean American female founded company that honors and celebrates the Korean culture and heritage, and is also weaving in the American culture through flavors, through manufacturing it here in the United States.
The driving question, though, is why would you change from corporate to this?
For me, I think I wanted to, throughout the work that I've done, I would say over the past decade, the organizations I've been part of, I think I wanted to drive more impact. I was looking at that for the next move I made in my career, having more impact. And I think that means impact in a couple of different areas, impact into the, AAPI community and beyond, and representation of just marginalized communities in general. Also impact in terms of how I can help, how I drive a business, to try something on my own and bet a little bit more on myself and see how I, through, all of the years of different areas that I went, parts of my career, how I could kind of bring that forward into this moment right now. So I'm excited to sort of be able to bring them in at certain points to sort of be part of this, because I do feel like I feel very proud of the brand. I feel like we have a lot of opportunity ahead of us. And I think for the first time, I feel just like I'm celebrating being Korean American.
I think it's scary for a lot of women when I think about this transition you made from the entertainment industry into the spirits industry. And I think that can be really scary for a lot of people to make that transition. What do you think was that single moment that you said, I'm ready?
I think for me, it always sort of is like when I stop learning and growing in a place and I want to learn something new. And I always sort of get very, distracted by the new thing. So like for this, I'd been talking to the CEO for a while, and it just was really exciting. And I think for me, it's an opportunity to learn so much, to be another, female CMO out there, which I think is for many reasons, very, very important, to also just show like there are these non-traditional career paths. So we, as women, I think, especially for myself, I can speak for myself, I'm a very traditional person. I'm an introvert and I'm very like traditional, I've spent a lot of time in corporate. So a very traditional sort of safe, planned course of action. And I think this is the first time that I've really sort of taken the leap on my own and just said, I'm just going to try something totally new, learn something new, and bring all the knowledge, communities, connections that I have from the past 15 plus years and bring that into this new venture.
Incredible. When you have done so much in life, not only from startup, it sounds like, or advising a startup to really the corporate side, how do you balance all this? Is that a struggle for you personally?
Yeah, it's tough to balance it all. I don't claim to do that. I think I try to make sure that my time is well spent. So with some of the nonprofit organizations and boards that I sit on, I really try to make sure I'm cherry picking things that, mean quite a bit to me, that I have impact on. I don't know. And I have a family too. So it's just, I feel like I just have to, my calendar is like my best friend. I have a family meeting every week in my household. So we just try to make sure we know what everyone is doing and to make sure that I'm there for the key moments for my family. And then if I need to flex, then I need to be there for a board meeting or an event for some of the nonprofit work I'm on, or for, whatever my current role is with a brand or an organization. So I feel like I'm constantly flexing. It's never balanced. It's just, there's something in the front, there's something kind of on the side, and a few things simmering in the back. So
Definitely. I feel like balance is a misnomer. What do women get wrong when it comes to their own brand in the workplace?
what I've seen, and certainly what I've done also, and from my past, my experience is sometimes I see people trying to model themselves after a certain person, another female executive they admire, somebody that might be out in the marketplace, and an entrepreneur. I think those are good things to have models, to have mentors, someone that you really sort of feel like a lot of the attributes and a lot of the skills they have are really something that you want to emulate. But I do feel like sometimes we tend to not embrace sort of some of the nuances of who we are. And that really kind of makes us unique, each individual, right? Like the three of us are very unique individual women, but we may have some crossover on skills, but each part of us in our brand is slightly different. So I found that, sometimes by just trying to emulate someone too much, it becomes like you're not letting some of your personality, what makes you unique, come through. And that I feel like is part of being your branding, being memorable and being sticky with people as you go through your professional career. And then the other thing I would say too is I find a lot of women they don't like sort of promote their own brand. I feel like there's been at least for me, I was taught, we're modest. People will see the work we do and we'll be rewarded accordingly. And I think sometimes when that doesn't work out, people feel a little disappointed. So there's nothing wrong with doing promotion of your brand or promotion of you and who you are. If you're on panels, if you're taking a new role, if you're doing any of these things, because we all want to see what incredible things all these women are doing. And if you don't tell us, we won't know about it. Make sure you're picking something that's like really representing you, who you are, and something that only you can deliver. Or that you can be.
You serve on multiple nonprofits, multiple boards, and I'm curious about what needs to be done to have more AAPI women like you reaching the executive ranks and the board seats of not just nonprofits, but also of corporate boards.
A lot of it is for people that are there to kind of reach back and bring people along. That's been something I've done since early on in my career, is making sure that not only am I, sort of supporting the talent that's coming up and coming, but also really giving real opportunity and setting time and promoting them on for a new role.
What do you feel your Korean American culture has given you in the way that you lead?
Being Korean American has given me a real, I think I'm empathetic. I really, the way I lead teams is really making sure that everyone on the team is feeling supported, good career growth, feeling seen, really. I think for a long time, as I mentioned, I wasn't really feeling seen. I just felt like I did the work, but no one really gave me any accolades. And I sort of my career sort of stalled a little bit. So I think that's sort of my heritage. I'm very mindful of everyone sort of on the team. I try to lead really diverse teams when I can actually curate the staff and pick the team members, not only from an ethnic perspective, but also from a professional background perspective. So I really try to make sure that people feel seen, appreciated, rewarded for great work, and feel like they have a real strong sort of professional growth map.
Thank you, Lisa, for joining today for Identity Unveiled. We truly admire the boldness you took from corporate to startup, but I really appreciate the fact that how culture has been a real rock in your career and finding maybe purpose or answers. And I feel like we all connect to that, doesn't matter what ethnicity you are, really. It's a search for identity, and for you that this story really rings true. Thank you for sharing today.
Thank you both so much.